Hi, this is Dave, Bell Running Guide. Welcome to this week's map reading task. This week we've got an elevation profile of a run that I did, and I want to see if you can work out what that run was, what the route was, so where I started and what some of the significant points on the run was. Also, can you identify a particular point on the run, so this little point here. The map that we're using is the Ordnance Survey 1 to 50,000. So somewhere on there was my route. So let's have a look at that profile. So just one thing to note before you try the task is that there's a slight error, slight discrepancy in the elevations that have come off the computer compared to what they're shown on the map. The profile is perfectly fine, but just be a little bit cautious on the absolute elevations. Right, so let's have a look. We started above 250 meters and then we went up pretty steeply in less than a kilometer, steeply, and then flattened off, and sort of a period of time spent, or a distance spent, just at around about 400 meters. Steep drop and then very steeply up the other side, similar elevation. Another steep drop, steeply up again, this time breaking through 400 meters, and then shallow and then a steeper drop. Similarly going up the other side, we've got a little shallowing here, steep, and then again above 400 meters and then a little dip. And from this point here the route mirrors what it was to start with. So this is an out and back. I got to there and turned round because this is the same as that. This dip here is the same as that. This peak here is that one. This one here is that one. This one here is that one. Obviously going in the opposite direction. So can we see any of that? Looks like we need to do just about 7 kilometers out and a similar back. So we're looking for a start just above 250 meters, maybe about 260 meters, climbing up to close to 400 meters. So where could we be on there? It makes sense possibly that I'm going to start somewhere accessible, so maybe on a road. On here we've got 297 meters, 261 meters there, could have started from there possibly, but there's no steep climb up from there. What about over here somewhere? 257 there, so could I have been starting just there and climbing steeply up to start with? Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? If I was going up these diamonds, which is the Cleveland Way, in a westerly direction, I've got a steep climb up and then flattens off just at about 400 meters, and we get quite a large distance there, so maybe sort of half a kilometer at around the same elevation. So that would be that and that, and now we're looking for a steep down and a climb up again to approximately the same height, but this time it's only a small amount of time spent at that high point before we drop down again. So if we were going up and along this hasty bank, we drop down steeply and then steeply up the other side. There's the summit, but then steeply down again off that. So that takes us down to this dip here. So we can see here that we don't go straight up again. We spend a little bit of time at a lower elevation, then up, and it looks like there's a steep up, slight flattening, and then another climb to the summit above 400 meters here, and then a gradual descent followed by a steeper descent. So going along the Cleveland Way, there's the area in the bottom here before we start to rise again, and then steeply up, and then here look, it gets slightly less steep under the writing of tumulus, up to probably a high point here, then a bit of a gradual descent to that viewpoint, and then a steep descent down here. Looking at the map, steeply descend, and then if we're on the Cleveland Way, we've got a flattening here. What happens next on the profile? So there we've got the flattening down there to below 300 meters, probably about distance of half a kilometer there before we start the steep climb up again. And here we go steeply up to around about 400 meters. Remember, this isn't absolutely precise, but looks like 400 meters, and then a slight dip down to the point where I turned around. So the distance from there down to there, probably about 400 meters. Can we find that? So that was the long bit in the valley bottom, cross the road, and then start to climb up steeply here, steeply up to the trig point, 408 meters, and then a gradual drop down for probably about 400 meters to an elevation there, puts us about 380 meters, and there was my turnaround point. So what about this little point there where the elevation just drops off slightly, not as steep, just for a small section before rising steeply again? So remember, that's on the second hill that we went up. So can we see that on the map? So I've zoomed in for you here. So that's the first flat summit, that's the dip down, there's the steep start, steep climb up here, and then just above the V of Cleveland, see where the contours open out, that there is the flattening that's shown on the profile. So you can just see that on the mapping software here. Follow the red dot from the right hand side of the map over here, look, coming along up along the flat, drops down to that dip there, up the other side, and that point there is the point that we were looking for on the other profile. Along, down, up, down, up to that 408 height, and then along, and there I turned round and came home, or at least came back to where I started from. So yeah, not too difficult this week, I don't think, but it's always great to look at maps. Thanks for watching. Look out for next week's navigation task. Bye for now.